All right, this is the second audio PowerPoint for your marketing chapters for this module, upcoming module. So the first two were 6 and 7. This is 8 and 9. And I will also have to create a third one, which will be your audio PowerPoint for the sales text that we are using. So this is a really good topic. It's sort of a cornerstone for marketing is segmenting and target markets. I'll skate through these again. Each of these could be each of these chapters, just so you know. This one and the next one in particular could be lectures all by themselves, for 20 minutes. But I don't think you really want to listen to them that long. And they take. I don't have that comfort and latitude either. So I'll focus on those things, as I always do, that I think are most important. So I think I mentioned maybe in the first intro that I did, I talked about some of these upcoming topics. And again, a cornerstone to marketing, if you go back to my three questions, is what's my customer product, or what's my product service, who's my customer, what's my value proposition. So this is another one around the extension, or sort of delving into who's my customer. How you answer the question of what's my product or service has a big influence on who your customer is. So if you say I'm going to make watches, what kind of watches are you going to make? Who are these? Who are these intended to have appeal to? Obviously, if you say, well, it's a Rolex, it's not going to appeal to everybody. There is a cadre of people within the marketplace, narrowly defined, for whom that product is intended to appeal to and that can afford it. On the converse of that is you could say, well, I want to design a watch that has appeal to everybody, and I'm going to price it affordably. Well, again, it's not going to appeal to everybody because different products are designed and promoted as such to meet both a functional need that I talked about as well as a psychological need. And so the Rolex person is not going to want your product most likely. That's just the way it works. In the same vein that not everybody wants to shop at Walmart or buy their things at Walmart. All these different companies have fairly well-defined target markets for whom they develop products and the promotions around those products. So we're looking at this concept of segmentation, and segmentation is really about defining a group of people with that share different characteristics and similar needs. So you could say that most people have a need and certainly a want for an automobile, but they all don't need the same kind of automobile. If that were the case, then all the automobiles would pretty much look alike. And so the car companies have different choices within their product line for different customer needs, and they design products that have both, in most cases, respond to a functional need as well as the psychological need that goes with it. Pickups are a good thing to think about, that they don't appeal to the people that buy a pickup generally buy it either for a functional need and or a psychological need that goes along with their perception of the brand. And so again, the car, whether it's a Dodge Ram or a Chevy Silverado, let's say, or an F-150, not only do each of them generally appeal to different, though overlapping, target markets? They clearly try to differentiate themselves in different ways through design and colors and features and such from one another. Some of it is real and some of it is perceived. So you look at this array of people that need automobiles, and you define those that have similar characteristics and need, and then you say, okay, I think these various segments are the ones that are the best fit for my company as I see it, my company as I want my customers to see me, and my company as I have tested and know my customers see me. And so I'm going to focus on these particular segments, and those become your target markets. And that's a really important element or aspect of marketing. And if you look at a company like Marriott, I mean, they have such a broad menu of different kinds of products that are developed around different things. Some of them are location focused, some of them are activity focused, customer focused, on and on. So, marketing segmentation, a really important element in the marketing concept, and sort of one of the first things that you think about while in the process of designing your product, if you don't already have it. So you have a very few products, virtually none really, that you say there's no market segmentation whatsoever. You do have some mass products that have minimal segmentation, like a razor. You know, you have men's and women, and you have some with 40 blades and some with a couple blades and whatever. But basically, they're segmented by gender. Toothbrushes, everybody has one, and it's kind of soft, medium, and hard. You know, but even then, they're segmented. There's virtually no product whatsoever that doesn't segment their customers at some level. So if you're saying, I want to appeal to everybody, it's probably their first kiss of death. Then you have fully segmented markets segmented like I just mentioned by gender, market segmentation by age group. Let's stop there and say you have cruises that are designed around spring break for college students. So primarily you have cruises that are designed for people above a certain age. You have cruises designed for people above a certain age that are primarily single, and vice versa, that are primarily married, uh, and on and on. And then market segmentation by gender and by age. And what market segmentation basically allows you to do is be more specific about designing products that are targeted to certain individuals to meet their very specific needs, which in turn allows you to focus your promotional efforts through venues that will most likely, if you've done your homework, connect with those particular people. Uh, what makes a good target market? Well, first of all, it should be substantial. That is, big enough to make sense for you to go after it for your particular product. It should be identifiable and measurable. If you say, I want all the hip people, I want to just have hip people that appreciate good art, that's going to be hard to target. They should be, again, if you say, as a politician, I'm going to go after these various groups. One of these groups is, say, the the seniors. So you could say it's everybody above 65. Can you identify them? Are there ways to do that? Yes. Are they measurable? Yes. I could probably find out that number within my metropolitan, county, or state or region within 10 minutes or less. Are they accessible? Seniors, are they accessible? Yeah, there's a lot of places. If they're a group that you're politically trying to appeal to, there's a lot of ways to access them through churches, through senior centers, through certain communities, they're going to have a higher number, whatever. So you want them to be accessible. Another example of that would be if you're a cigarette producer and you or alcohol and you want to strongly target kids between the age of 15 and 18, it's problematic. They're not accessible, unless you're selling them to them in the alleyways, which is not recommended. So, and then last of all, they should be responsible. Another one that I often add is it should be differentiable. Going back to the automobile, this person wants a car for this reason, this group wants it for this reason, and I can design two different models that are differentiated from one another, or I can produce an option that's differentiated for that particular market from my competitors. And there's a lot of different ways to differentiate or position your product that we'll talk about later. So I usually teach there's four basic ways to segment: geography, demographics, uh, psychographics, and behavioral. And these last two, as I describe segmentation, are nested in behavioral, benefit sought and usage rate. And let me make a statement about benefits. This is a real good place to do it versus attributes. We can position ourselves around attributes, but at the end of the day, people don't buy attributes; they buy the benefits. And so, a hybrid car is a good example. That it is a hybrid car and gets good gas mileage is an attribute. But the benefits that you find in advertising generally talk about money saved, kind of goodwill. There's sort of a psychological dimension, but the touchy-feely. But you save time and you save money. You don't have to fill up so much, and it costs you less to operate it in theory. And so, again, people don't buy attributes. They buy benefits. The benefits that go with a product. People don't hire you, and it has a huge sales dimension that I'll talk about later in in the sales presentations. But people don't. When you're given an interview and people say, "Well, tell me about yourself," people are going to hire you because you say, "I'm trustworthy, I'm a good worker, I'm a hard worker, I'm honest." They're not, because the person before you and the person after you are going to say the same thing. What's the benefit of hard work, working hard? I can get this job done faster than anybody else. I can produce more product in a shorter period of time, and you'll make more money. People like to work with me because I motivate them and I bring out the best in them. Those are the things that matter at the end of the day. Those are the benefits of attributes. So whenever you are talking about, if you're buying from a consumer perspective, you're buying the benefits. What's the benefit of buying a Porsche? People notice it. I mean, there's really a kind of a psychological benefit, but there are benefits. Or maybe it just makes you feel good. But you want to get in touch with the benefits and not so much the attributes. Yeah, they have a great design. Yeah, that's one of the reasons, but most of the reasons you buy are benefits, whether they're psychological or functional. And then usage rate is another one. Is this a loyal customer? How many Starbucks would use this quite a bit, I'm sure, not just so they have loyalty cards necessarily, but they know there's a reason why they have a space for you to sit down, and then there's a reason why they have a place for you to drive up and get your food. And it's two different people who see the product very differently. This is one of my favorites, actually. Family life cycle. You see commercials all the time that promote around family life cycle. Cruises certainly do, but one of my two favorite, well, let's see, one that comes to mind is a Nissan commercial where it's an African American couple, and they're in the house, and she says the EPT test is positive, so she says, we're having a baby. And the guy says, we're having a baby. Then he goes out and he grabs the back end of his sports car, and he pulls it out and makes it bigger into a family car. That's a life stage family cycle age. Not age, but a family cycle life stage segmentation commercial. And another one is the State Farm commercial where the guy's at a pool party saying, I'm never getting married. Then he's buying the ring. Then he says, we're never having kids. And the wife says never. And the next thing you know, they got a kid. And they said, I'm never married or moving to the suburbs. There they are. I'm never buying one of those. And they buy it. And he says, we're not having any more kids. And she says, I'm pregnant. And he says, this is awesome. So those are all different life stages. And they're stages that everybody goes through. And the commercial is intended to get you at your particular stage, all of those stages, and it all happens within a fairly short time period, and to get you into a product or service, which is, I believe, State Farm, where they can take care of you at all those different stages. So it's a really good message, and I think that resonates with most people. Family life cycle, that's what I was just talking about. We talked about this, there are different kinds of business categories, so you can segment businesses in different formats than you do for consumer products. You want to look for the demographics of the group, their decision style, different tolerances for risk, confidence level, job responsibility. Tolerance for risk. I've owned a couple of Porsches, and one of the ones that was effective with me, there's two kinds of Porsche commercials. One of them will say, you deserve it. That's the message, you deserve it. And then the other one, just in case you're having second thoughts, the other one that you see once in a while is they'll show you a 1949 Porsche, and they'll say it's now worth, millions of dollars, which is their way of saying it's a great investment if you just wait long enough. I didn't wait long enough. Uh, so the steps in segmenting a market is select your market, choose the basis for segmentation, select your descriptors that kind of define your persona, analyze them, select the markets that make the most sense, and then design your marketing mix around the person that it's intended to. What's my product or service? Who's my customer? What's my value proposition? So the target market is just that group of people that you think are the best fit out of the segments that you've identified that have a common need. And then customer relationship management is really a process of a marketing philosophy almost, that your whole focus is to produce products and the service that goes along with it to resonate with a particular target market and to keep them happy over time. So this whole one size fits all, I want to appeal to everybody, is archaic in this day and age. Everybody's special. And you want to meet a real need, and your whole attempt is to create a customer that's loyal to you and then reinforce that behavior over time, and also to change it accordingly, to be up on it, and which is what marketing research is all about. Now, positioning is how you differentiate your product from the competition. So if you think about, and I used pickups earlier, but if you think about it, actually detergents is a great one. And Procter & Gamble has lots of sub-brands, but they're each supposed to do something different. Another good one is aspirin. You have Bayer aspirin and you have all the generics. They are absolutely identical in their chemistry. Absolutely identical, but Bayer differentiates it perceptionally, the perception by attaching benefits that the other ones have as well, but because they don't promote their products, they don't advertise them, and that's exactly why they can sell them to you cheaply. They create perceived value around things like heart attacks and such that the other ones have. But again, other ones have those same benefits, but there is a perception that Bayer is better. And at the end of the day, all those detergents, they have minor differences, but basically they're soap that is supposed to get stains out of your laundry. So how do we position ourselves? Well, it's usually around an attribute. We're stronger, we're bigger, price and quality. Brand is another one, emotion, product class, and product user. Under behavior segmentations, we have things like the decider and the user. And so a wife and a husband might both use a hammer, but one is generally targeted because the product is presumably fit for them. So marketing research, I'm going to make this really quickly because this is getting too long. So, so there are 7 steps in the market research process: define the problem, plan, design the primary data, specify your sampling procedure, collect the data, analyze the data, prepare your report, and then prepare that. You follow up on that report. Of the 7 steps, the most important one, and this is really important to remember, it sounds simplistic, and in a sense it is, but is the definition of the problem. The reason being is if you define the problem incorrectly, then you're not going to collect the right data. and you're not going to collect the right data in the appropriate way. So Chevrolet once made a car called the Nova. I actually bought one, and it wasn't doing well in South America. This is a true story. It's back in the 70s, late 70s, in South America. And so long story short, they weren't sure of why sales were failing there. And so they tried more advertising, they tried price manipulations, but at the end of the day, they found out that Nova, in slang in South America at least, meant no go, and so it was the name of the product itself. And so, how you define the problem is critical in doing the rest of the research and determining what you need to answer the question or solve the issue at hand. Your research can be descriptive, diagnostic, or predictive, kind of what if. They're each a little different. And you have two places that you can find information when you are doing your research. You can use secondary data or primary data. And secondary data is information that already exists. And so you can just go out and start looking for it. The advantage of using secondary data is it can save time and money. I mean, and it's the most common way to gather information. But the disadvantage is that it may not be germane to the topic that you're looking at, or it may be too old, and so forth. Another good place anymore, at least for collecting data, is social media and big data. And primary data usually is data collected to solve or answer a particular problem. And generally, so it's issue specific. And it usually comes from 3 or 4 different sources. It comes from surveys, it comes from experiments, focus groups, and sort of ethnocentric observational ways. Basically, there are 2 ways that you can get information about your customer. It's either asking them or watching them, or some combination of the 2. So primary data answers a specific research question and it's current, gathered for that particular use. Obviously, if you think about the ways that I just mentioned, they're all pretty expensive. And they're time consuming as well, and they require a real expertise. Survey research is the most popular way that businesses gather information about customers or even other elements of the marketplace. And those were types of surveys, methods. Ethnographic research is just looking at people in the natural situation and watching them. Experiments are similar. They're probably the most complex of all the ways to create new information. And then focus groups, there wasn't a slide on that, I don't know why, but focus groups are usually 6 to 8 people in size, and they're oftentimes customers. They use them a lot in political and advertising efforts for deciding names of products, or how you feel about certain things, so that the company can maybe come up with new products or new ways, politicians, of framing things so they have broader appeal. And I'm going to go through this very quickly because this is getting entirely too long. But one of the things that, for those of you that have taken STAT, this was like a quick review. When you're doing, let's say, surveys in particular, you start with a population, and you select a sample from that, and it can be a probability sample or a non-probability sample, and the difference is a probability sample, everybody has an equal chance of being selected. In a non-probability sample, you don't. You just select them based on certain criteria. And so when you're hearing the results of a survey, you always want to know whether or not it was a random or probability sample or a non-random, non-probability sample, because if it's non-probability, it's not necessarily representative then of the population from which you've drawn it. So these are just different kinds of probability and non-probability samples. I'm not going to go through them as I normally would because of the time, but it's discussed well enough in the text. Same. Thing. One of the most popular non-probability is a convenient sample. That's what academics often use because why? It's convenient. So, they'll do a survey on around a certain topic with groups of students because they can get in front of them. But are the students necessarily representative of the population to which they're trying to connect the results to? Real quickly, if you're a professor and you want to, you teach business and you have a class of 45 people and you ask them who they're going to vote for, are they representative of the general population? No. Are they representative of the college itself? No. I would expect attitudes of business students to be different than art students or history students, whatever. There are different kinds of errors that go along that can occur that you'd want to be concerned with as of your collecting data: measurement error, sampling error, framing error, and random error.